everyone, I'm JD from Willow Band Journals. Here are my collection of Daphne's Diary journals that I'm making, and I've shared a bit about how I've prepared pages and arranged them. And in this video I am now finally up to the stage of binding them all. So I've got my needle here, I use a tapestry needle, and I've got my embroidery thread. Quite a lot of the journals were autumn themed, so I've got some lovely orange thread here to use for those particular journals. And I'm going to start with this smaller one here, and this is more of a tropical themed journal. It's very bright, very colourful, so I think the orange thread will work well with this one as well, because of that bright theme, and it's kind of got a citrus theme to it, with lemons and fruit. There's pineapples as well, so all that kind of orange yellow color tone. And I'm just going to use some masking tape down the inside of the spine first of all. I usually use washi tape, especially the William Morris design washi tape from Washi Wednesday, but I don't have any of that at the moment. I need to put through an order, and with this masking tape, it's actually great because when you have limitations with limited supplies, that's when you are forced to be creative. And even though I've used masking tape plenty of times before for my spines, I sort of forgot about it, and so it was when I was limited in my supplies that I remembered about masking tape, and I have kind of fallen in love with masking tape all over again. I love using it in collages, especially vintage collages. I've used it on the outside of spines. In particular, one journal of mine that I made, I have masking tape all down the spine on the outside, and I really enjoy that. And for some reason I stopped using it, and this has allowed me to remember, masking tape. I love using masking tape because I guess it's such a mundane everyday item that's why I forgot about it and don't think to use it. But I really love using masking tape. I love that sort of transparent as well, so that you can kind of see through the tape and you're not losing too much of the Daphne's Diary magazine images on the inside of the cover. And I love, there's the cream texture to it, so it automatically gives it a more vintage vibe. And the fact that you are using just an everyday item, I love that idea that we can upcycle and give new life to something ordinary. And I don't know, there's just something about all of those things that together has made me really love masking tape again. So that's why I've actually held off on my Washi Wednesday order, because I'm just realizing how much I'm loving using masking tape. And I sort of don't want to get the Washi Wednesday tape because I know I'll probably naturally go back to that tape and then probably forget about this masking tape again. So I just, everything at the moment is masking tape. And I'm enjoying that phase. So while I'm enjoying that phase, I'm just holding off on that order. So here, you saw me just bind this, and it's pretty quick, I think I managed to bind all these journals within 40 minutes, and I think there's 10 of them, so it doesn't take too long, especially when you've got, a single signature journal. Binding these journals takes, 2 minutes, but because I'm fussing around, doing all of the masking tape and finding the right colour embroidery thread, the actual binding itself doesn't take long at all. So this one here, very much autumn themed with the orange, I'm not sure what they are, seeds or fruits or something on the cover. And I love the inside cover. It's adorable with that little fox there and the vintage and the script writing there. It's so cute. I love the inside of this cover. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes the outside cover isn't as pretty as the inside. And it's a little bit of a shame because I always want to have the prettiest images or design on the outside, but it's cool. It's lovely having it on the inside as well. it's kind of like a surprise. And just you turn the page, it's like we turn the cover, it's like, oh, look how beautiful that image is. It's gorgeous, so sweet. Like I'd be tempted to keep that for me because the fox has become one of my symbols, not the animal necessarily, but the symbol of the fox. So cartoon illustrations, just really stylish, because I'm not really into the cutesy, cartoony, more abstract style. I'm more into the beautiful, pretty cartoon illustrations, I guess. I don't know. And so this one I did try to put more of that fox theme into it. So this middle page you can see here is a fox. So it really mirrors or goes well with that inside cover. It just pairs up really well. And that's always what I'm thinking about with my journals is, the pages all going together and making sure that all the colours are going together, the theme, the pictures are all going together, the design, and then even with the embroidery thread, picking out embroidery thread that's going to go with the covers and the pages. And sometimes I'll use a complementing colour, so the autumn, I'm using orange, so that complements the autumn theme. But other ones I do more of a contrasting colour. So maybe for one of my bright journals, if it's got lots of different colours, it really doesn't matter for that particular journal type what colour embroidery thread I choose, because it's such an eclectic journal or colourful journal that I might be better off going for a contrasting colour to stick with that eclectic theme. But for these ones for now, it's more of a complementing colour. And honestly, it really doesn't matter too much. You can use whatever colour you want. Like I say, if you only have one colour and it doesn't go with what you have, don't let that stop you from making your journal. Just use what you have. Especially with junk journals, like it's all about using what you have and about upcycling and just everything going together. And it's just anything goes with a junk journal. And where possible though, I do like everything going together and complementing each other and working together as a theme, as a whole, and so it's cohesive and all that kind of thing. But you definitely don't have to do that. You can have completely random, completely eclectic. So just finishing up this journal and we'll move on to the next. I think I just end up binding all of the autumn themed ones first because I've got the orange thread here, and like I do for me at the moment have run out of a lot of colours. So where I get my embroidery thread is from the local cheap shop. I get most of my stuff from the local cheap shop. My glue, my cotton thread for my sewing, my bags and things. That's where I get them. My doilies usually would come from, it's called Prices Plus here. So, but other places you have the reject shop, the $2 shop, or I guess the dollar store or whatever you have in America and overseas. That's kind of the similar thing. Anyway, so that's where I would get my embroidery thread because I can't find it anywhere else unless I bought it online. And I've used all my favourite colours, like the blues especially. And so I'm left with a lot of red, a lot of orange, and a lot of yellow. So this is perfect to have these autumn journals because I can finally use up these colours. And I do have a little bit of purple and green left over and some blue, but what I've been doing now is raiding my grandmother's embroidery thread that was passed down to me last year. Was it last year? No, it was the year before. And I've been hoarding it for a while, but now that I'm running out of thread here, I've started getting out those colours that I need. But for this particular project and for other projects, I try to limit myself and only use what I have in terms of the ones from the shop. Otherwise, I'll never use them, right? I will just always go to my go-to colours and I will never, ever use reds, yellows, oranges. And so for me, it's out of my comfort zone to use orange. But like I said, junk journals, anything goes. So I'm trying to force myself to limit my supplies and just use what I have and make it work, because you always can make it work. That's the great thing about creativity, is limitations forces creativity, and it does work. It just might take you out of your comfort zone. It might take a bit of mental energy to be able to push yourself to do this, but it's good. It's all good. So anyway, I wanted to just use the thread from the shop for these ones, and that forced me to get creative. So some of the later journals, I didn't have complementary colours, but I did have lovely contrasting colours. And if I did have complementary colours, I wouldn't it would be lazy creating, because I'm just using the same colours. But what it does when you limit yourself, it forces you to actually use your mind, think outside the box, and it becomes exciting creativity then, because you're pushing the limits now. And I'm talking in general now just about creativity, and like the theory of creativity and philosophy of creativity. It really is, when you have limited supplies, it really does force creativity, and it's active creativity, and it's not lazy anymore. Not that, there's anything wrong with lazy creativity, but you know what I mean? Like, now I have to think. Now I have to be like, okay, well, what color do I use here? Instead of just going, oh, it's an orange cover, let's use orange thread. It's like, okay, let's look at what I have and let's see what's going to be best. And then when I do it, it's like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I love this contrasting color, and I would never have thought of it originally, but now that I see it together, it's alive and it's dynamic now. And you wouldn't have got to that place without being forced to be creative. And again, I'm talking more broadly, not just with, this is a very specific example with embroidery thread and journal making, but with anything, when you're making a collage, when you're doing a page spread, when you're making an entire journal, it is, there's something to be said about limiting your supplies and forcing creativity, and it becoming active and dynamic rather than just lazy and going with your comfort zone. So if I have any advice, is to, and if you're stuck as well, this can be a helpful thing to do, is to actually intentionally limit your supplies, so that you don't get overwhelmed, because sometimes we get choice anxiety and paralysis from too many options and we don't know what to do. So just choose one color or one type of supply. If you have all these papers, just pull some of them out. You don't need to use all of them. And then what that does, it forces you to get creative with what you have, because if you use everything, then there's options galore. But with the limited supplies, now you have to think, well, how can I use these? How can I actually put these together? Anyway, so this journal here as well, it had red on the cover, and I could have used, it's still sort of that tone, the yellows, oranges, reds, but I just found as I was flipping through it, it had more of a green theme to it, especially with that middle page. So I could have used red. I was tempted to use red for this because that's the easy option, because there's red on the cover. But when I looked at the middle page, red to me didn't, of course it could go, you can make anything work, but I didn't feel that red worked well with the green middle page. It was just too much of a contrast, like too much. And if that's what you want, go for it. But for me, it was just a bit jarring. So I was thinking, like, what color do I use? Do I go red? Do I go the yellow? What do I use? And I just felt that the green was the best choice, because there is a tiny bit of green on the cover, and just because of this middle page, the green just suited it more. So I did go a complementary color for the green. I mean, I could have gone yellow because there's yellow on the cover, and that would have been a contrasting color with the inside page, and that would have worked fine. But I think just for my eye, the green worked better in this case. And yeah, as I was flipping through, I just felt, the green suited it better. So, I mean, I go into a lot of detail and a lot of thought and consideration when it just comes to something like just choosing the thread color. But it makes me happy to finally hit on the right one. Now, all of the journals, I didn't have a problem with binding. It was super quick and easy. This one was the only one that gave me a world of pain. And if you're new to binding, you might experience this. So when I first started binding, this would happen sometimes. It rarely happens now, like 1 out of 100 times this will happen. I can't even remember the last time this happened, but this one, something just wasn't working. I couldn't pull the thread through so it wouldn't tighten, and I just couldn't make it work. So I did end up cutting it off and just redoing the thing. And sometimes you have to do that, and it can be frustrating, and it might make you think, oh, I'm never binding again. It's too painful. And I'm with you. When I first started, at the start, it was quite a bit painful, just how finicky it was. But when I did it over and over and over again, and I learned my little tips and tricks of how to pull it through and miss the thread and make sure you don't go through it with the needle. Otherwise, that puts you in a total world of pain. And making sure you pull it tight before you tie the knot and all those kind of things. Now it's super easy. I can do it with my eyes closed. It's like, totally not a thing anymore, not a stress at all. But I absolutely understand if you're new to this, it can be really intimidating and painful. But I just say persist, practice, find what works for you. You'll find the little tips and tricks that help you. But this just was not working for me. But I haven't had an experience like this since I first started making journals. So anyway, but I totally understand. If you have this experience, you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm never binding again. But keep at it. I wrestle with this for so long. I should have just, cut it and try it again. But I thought I could fix it and all this kind of stuff. But anyway, I will leave it here because I just keep on wrestling and it takes me quite a while to fix it. So I'll leave it here. And then I'll come back later on because this video is getting quite long anyway. And there's a part 2 of this where I bind the rest of the journals. So I will see you then, and hope you are doing really well and hope you're enjoying this series. Big special thank you to my beautiful patrons who supported me in January. If you would like to become a patron in February, and the link is down below, and that is where you get access to extra videos, all my printables, all my digital kits in my Etsy. There are post tiers, mail tiers and journal tiers as well. There is a Marco Polo tier and just lots of fun stuff over there. There is also a link to all of my available courses down below in the description box. You can join those anytime for all of my Patreon and courses. They're monthly subscriptions that work just like Netflix or Spotify, and you're charged on the date that you sign up, and you can cancel anytime.